councillors, officers and members of the public, we gather here today to take decisions directing this council for the future. Let us do so calmly, with dignity and goodwill, and let us accompany our right to freedom of speech and expression with personal honesty, careful forethought, and respect for each other. May our decisions be just and fair, and in the best interests of the people who live and work in our beautiful, historic county of Dorset.
Thank you, Councillor Trite. Whilst I don't usually comment on world affairs, I do feel the need to comment on the dreadful events in the Middle East. At a time of great sorrow, suffering, and uncertainty for the future of the Middle East, our thoughts are particularly with those of our Dorset residents whose families and friends have been affected by the unprecedented and horrific events in Israel and the crisis unfolding in the occupied Palestinian territory. Like the UN Secretary General, I condemn utterly the abhorrent attacks by Hamas and others that have left so many dead and injured. My thoughts and sympathy is with you all. Thank you. So good evening and welcome, everyone, to our meeting of Full Council on the 13th of July. I would like to remind members to please stand and state their name and which ward they represent when speaking. Thank you. So agenda item 1 is apologies.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Dover, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Lacey-Clark, Councillor Carr-Jones, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Wharf, Councillor Harrison, Councillor Heatley, Councillor Dyer, Councillor Shortell, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Brenton, Councillor Knox, Councillor Canning, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Holloway and Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Susan. I'm glad most of us are here. Second on the agenda is to approve the minutes. Do I have your consent to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of July, 2023? Thank you very much. I'll sign those in a minute. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Do we have any, please? Okay, thank you. So we move on to Chairman's announcements. I believe members are aware of the recent passing of 2 honorary aldermen. Honorary Alderman Della Jones, MBE, was first elected to North Dorset District Council in 1974, representing the Lower Winterbourne ward. 3 years after that, she was made chairman of the Environmental Services Committee, a position she held until 1988. In May 1999, Della was elected chairman of North Dorset District Council, a position she held for many years. Her lifetime of community service also included 21 years as a Dorset County Councillor. Della's funeral was held 2 days ago to a packed church at Winterbourne, Selston. Honorary Alderman Geoffrey Miller passed away last week. Geoffrey was elected to serve Bourton as a district councillor for North Dorset from 1974 until he retired in 2012. He had a particular interest in housing matters, and having sat on the Housing Committee since 1979, he eventually became chairman of that committee serving from 1988 to 1994. Geoffrey was also a member of the Development Control Committee and the Policy Review Committee. We heard this morning that Geoffrey's funeral will be held on the 26th of October at 2 o'clock at St George's Church, Bourton. You are aware that John Selgren, Executive Director for Place, has announced his imminent retirement following 5 years working at Dorset Council and over 33 years in local government. John will leave the council at the end of the year. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank John for all his hard work on behalf of our residents. He has been an instrumental part of the leadership team, which successfully launched Dorset Council in 2019, bringing together the many different services of the legacy county, district and borough councils through local government reorganisation. I particularly want to thank John for all his hard work in ensuring that our town councils feel listened to. Over the years, several town clerks have expressed the view that they now feel very much a part of Dorset Council's plans and aspirations due to the regular meetings that have taken place. On a personal level, I very much appreciated the support John has given me by his attendance at my civic services and his unfailing cheerfulness. So on behalf of the members, I would like to thank John for his service and commitment to our council over these last 5 years. I wish him and Christine all the best for a long and happy retirement. Round of applause, please. Lastly, I'm delighted to share with you the news that Councillor Spencer Flower, leader of Dorset Council since 2019, has been shortlisted for the Local Government Information Unit's, that's LGIU, Leader of the Year Award. Councillor Flower played an instrumental role in driving through the local government reform that led to the creation of Dorset Council in 2019. Since that time, under his political leadership, the authority has made savings of almost £100 million, which have been reinvested in frontline services. This has protected those essential services on which the residents of Dorset depend. Spencer actively encourages and promotes cross-party working. We have all, across this chamber, been part of that and have appreciated that approach, setting aside party politics to find the right solutions for Dorset. Councillor Flower also constantly advocates for Dorset wherever he goes, promoting the county and seeking opportunities that can benefit local residents. Finally, and most importantly, he cares deeply for the individuals he works with, members and officers, and above all for the communities he serves. So best of luck, Spencer, for the award ceremony at the City of London Corporation on the 16th of November. Thank you. We move on now to agenda item 5, public participation, questions and statements. We have one question this evening submitted by Ed Moore.
Hello, I'm reading this on behalf of Damus Eco Crew from Damus First School. We've been campaigning with support from DTAG and Sustrans for a safe cycle route and lane between Dorchester and Poundbury for the past 12 months. This was something that was promised by Dorset Council and the Duchy in 2017, but sadly hasn't happened. We have the support of Jason Bauman, estate manager at the Duchy, who wants to get around the table with everyone to get the wheels in motion for the project. We put together a questionnaire which found 81% said they would use the route other than the school run. 72% said they would use a cycle lane to get to Poundbury. We wrote a letter to Chris Peck, head of highways, who at first dismissed the idea, saying Poundbury and Dorchester were in a better position than most towns and cities in Dorset, thanks to the environmental work of our school. They were focusing on Thorndown, where they could make a difference with a bigger impact. We wrote back to Chris, and eventually he agreed to a meeting to discuss the route during May half-term, but only with myself and DTAG. From this meeting, Chris Peck told myself that it would take between 5 and 10 years to complete, depending on funding when it becomes available. But the children stated, we will all be at university at this time. It might be ready to use. It was agreed that Dorchester War Memorial to Dorchester West Station Bridge would be the first phase. Phase 2 from the Dorchester Bridge to West Bridge to Damer's First School, then phase 3 to Monkey's Jump roundabout. Phase 1 needs to go through public consultation first. All these phases will support other cycle routes and lanes within the town and afar to connect up cycle lanes and routes that are in place or could be in place. We have been measuring the air quality around the school and neighbouring roads with Sustrans over the last 4 weeks to add more evidence to our case. We do not want to wait 5 to 10 years to have a safe cycle lane/route that was already promised to Damer's First School, local schools, Dorchester and Poundbury in 2017. We have already waited 6 years. Why can't there be a safe cycle lane/route from Dorchester town to Poundbury built in the next 12 months?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. We will now receive a response from Councillor Ray Bryan.
Yes, I'm Councillor Ray Bryan, Portfolio Holder for Highways, Travel and Environment. Ed, it's nice to see you again. I've had many an enjoyable visit to your school. It's positive to hear such enthusiasm from Damer's School for improvements to walking and cycling. Dorset Council supports a dedicated team from Sustrans who work with schools, including Damer's, on promoting sustainable transport, including holding regular events and activities with students. We've already constructed a route linking the Victoria Park area of Dorchester to the new school site in Poundbury in advance of its opening, including a new crossing at Bridport Road, at Whitfield Road, which was completed in 2017. This is well used by children walking, scooting and cycling to both the school and for other trips in the area. We continue to work with the Dorchester Transport Action Group on potential routes between Dorchester Town Centre and the existing active travel routes near Poundbury. We are looking to see if funding from central government could be made available for such projects. Dorset Council's teams are currently working on schemes to improve the links to schools in many parts of the county, including Dorchester, and I very much hope that we can secure funding for similar projects such as the link between Poundbury and Dorchester Town Centre in the future. I'm going to add a personal note and a personal commitment to you. I'm going away for a holiday for a short break, but when I get back, I'm coming to talk to you to see how we can work together to try and bring this to fruition. That I promise you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. Regarding agenda item 6, there are no deputations or petitions. So agenda item 7 is the announcements and reports from the leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Morning, everyone. I've got a few things I wanted to touch on tonight. It's in the bulletin. As you know, it will be published immediately following the meeting tonight. I make no apology for covering the issue about lobbying government for a better deal for Dorset, because it's something that I do on a regular basis. I was at the DCN board a few weeks ago online. I found myself being the unitary rep on that. We're part of the CCM, which is the County Council Network, part of the district council network because obviously the services on the unitary fit in both those areas. And it was an opportunity for me to enjoy and respect some of the views expressed cross-party by other colleagues around some of the challenges we're faced with in terms of some of our key frontline services. So gave me the opportunity to do that. But I'm going to continue to lobby because we're not the only Shire area that gets poorly funded. And it didn't happen in the last decade. It's been happening for decades. The lack of funding, proper funding for the Shire councils, and we need to try and move that on. And it's interesting, isn't it, that we've heard the Fairer Funding Review, and I discovered in the meeting they've changed the title now. It's called the Review of Relative Needs. I'm sure it's probably the same thing, but why they changed the title, I've no idea. But I don't expect any, and the view I've got from the members that were present is that we're not expecting any real change in the structural funding for local government until after the general election, whenever that is. But there are some short-term demands. You know, all the councils, we're probably in a far better place than many councils are. Many that have issued 114 notices and others and are getting close to it as well. We're in a far better place than that. That doesn't make it easy. So you'll see the note. I've put a few statistics in the briefing, if I let you to have a read of that. But I wanted really tonight to dwell on some of the achievements of officers, actually, because I think as a council, we do need the experience, the professionalism and the dedication of our officers in where we achieve things. And I'm aware that because somebody sent me a WhatsApp message at some ridiculous time last night with a black tie on, telling me they'd got an award for the National Highways Award for partnership working. Ray, thank you. I'm told they're going to get a frequent flyers card because it's the second time in 5 years they've been to that event and got another award. So all credit to the team that have achieved that. We then got the National Award for Digital Champion Scheme, which is something that, I'm very proud of because it's one of the things, one of our key aspirations is to become far more digital. And if we embrace, modern ways of communication, we can slicken up our ways of dealing with our issues and save some money at the same time. We got the highly commended for the Weymouth Station Gateway project with a nomination for a further Highways Award. So I know that's been fairly controversial, but it's there. And I understand, I've seen it, it looks pretty good to me. And again, the fact that we've been highly commended for it suggests that we might have got something a little right. We've been shortlisted for the decarbonisation work that we've done. Again, a huge credit to our team of officers in that particular area who've worked so diligently to help us as a council achieve our climate and ecological strategy and our plan of action. So great credit to everyone in that respect. And last but by no means least, the community safety team. It says visit to the Home Office. I think it was an online event. I've got Laura right behind me. That's right, Laura, isn't it? And I've mentioned Laura in my bulletin, but equally I've also mentioned Molly, because I know Molly was part of that event. And one of the comments made by the Domestic Violence Commissioner, Nicola Jacobs, was how refreshing it was that there were two members from the council, from different parties involved in the event. So I thought it was appropriate, Molly, to recognise your contribution, as you have done down the years, to this particular aspect of our lives. So thank you very much for that contribution. And while I am up, can I just echo the comments made by the chairman about John Selgren? I've known John for the whole time that he's been here. We've worked really close together on many, as many in this chamber have. And he's been particularly helpful more recently around the devolution stuff, which we'll come on to later. But thank you very much, John, for all your hard work and support, enabling this council to achieve some of the things it's achieved in the last 5 years. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flower. Agenda item 8 is questions from councillors, and we start question 1 submitted by Councillor Clayton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kelvin Clayton, Bridport. On September the 9th, the first Dorset COP took place in Dorchester. This was a very successful and inspiring event. Attendees included a number of high-profile climate activists, a number of Dorset council officers and 5 Dorset councillors. Unfortunately, none of these councillors were from the controlling party. Whilst the portfolio holder has my full confidence, this wider lack of support, together with the recent watering down of the government's climate actions, could imply a lack of commitment, that our climate crisis is not the priority it needs to be. Should the residents of Dorset be concerned?
Thank you, Councillor Clayton. You will receive a response from Councillor Bryan.
Again, Councillor Ray Bryan, portfolio holder, Highways, Travel and Environment. That's for members of the public who only just joined us. Can I thank you for the question and also thank you for your comment about me personally. I really appreciate that. Dorset Council has been putting tackling climate change and supporting our natural environment as a core priority in our 22 to 24 council plan. And we refreshed our strategy this year to reiterate our commitment to a carbon neutral, nature positive and resilient Dorset. Spurred on by the decision and acute warnings of the IPCC's 6th assessment report. The council, this council, has made a substantial commitment to its delivery, including through a £10 million capital programme which forms part of a wider delivery, including through a £10 million capital. £70 million investment programme, largely utilising external funds, which I have always campaigned for. Anybody that joined me on the EAP will remember my opening comments when I said it will require a lot of money from central government to make this happen. And our progress has been recognised, and Spencer's already mentioned it, through our nomination for Best Climate Action at this year's Association for Public Service Excellence Awards. I remain as committed as ever to delivering on this generational defining challenge. Nothing has changed. As I have made clear on a number of occasions, this council, cannot achieve this alone. Our residents will be at the heart of our journey to a greener, cleaner Dorset. And it is noticeable that public concern about climate change is significantly higher in the South West than in other regions of the UK. I find that quite sad. That's according to the government's own public attitudes tracker. The Dorset COP event was a clear indication of this, with a constructive day of discussion and debate. I'm just sorry I couldn't be there. Unfortunately, it was on a Saturday, and my wife likes to see me occasionally. Our officers attended, and I understand they did us proud, and I thank the officers for what they did there. Not only to ensure that the council's position was represented and understood, but also to learn from our residents face-to-face themselves on how we might better facilitate wider change, and took an active role on the day. The COP was an exceptionally well-organised community event, held, I believe, at the Town Hall, and was a testament to our residents' seriousness about net zero. Notwithstanding the coverage of the government's recent announcement, it should be noted that the Prime Minister's recent statement recommitted the UK to net zero, and there was positive commitments, including the boost to the grant for heat pumps, the acknowledgement that tackling our emissions and cost of living crisis hand in hand is a principle that I'm sure many of us, not all, would agree with. As such, from a local leadership perspective, nothing has changed. I remain committed to our ambitions that are set out at the heart of our council plan. I am not, nor will I, water down our commitments. And I will continue to work with colleagues throughout the organisation and beyond as part of that leadership required to meet our collective ambitions to protect and enhance our environment and climate. Local leadership matters that have come from all sections of society throughout this wonderful county of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Excuse me. Question 2 was submitted by Councillor William Trite.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Bill Trite for Swanage Ward. Assuming that Dorset Council is successful in its commendable objective of becoming carbon neutral in or by the year 2040, do we yet have an estimate at present monetary values of what the total net cost of achieving this will have been to the Council between 2019 and either 2040 or any earlier date of neutrality? If we don't have such a figure, when will such a projection be available? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trite. We'll receive a response from Councillor Bryan, who we're keeping very busy tonight.
As usual, Chairman. Dorset Council has clear ambitions to deliver on its natural environment, climate and ecological strategy, and these ambitions are also clearly articulated in our council plan. As a council, we are currently delivering a programme that is worth about £70 million, which includes £10 million capital investment from this council. As I have stated on many occasions, it's not possible, nor will be possible, for this council to fund all of the change required on its own. And to date, we have been extremely successful in securing external funds for programmes such as the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme and for Low Carbon Dorset, which alone have combined a value of £35.5 million. We are committed to continue to source those external funds and are working on several at the moment, ensuring that the cost to the council remains as low as possible. As part of our ongoing programme, we are determined we will be ready with off-the-shelf plans when we are asked to bid for money from either government or private bodies. We are also in the process of creating a programme that will help residents decide how to reduce their personal carbon emissions. And just recently I had a meeting with Aidan. It didn't give me any money, but I had a meeting with Aidan to point out that this has got to be the way forward for us to involve more and more of the public and to get them working with us on what we need to achieve. Given the changing legislative environment, the rapid development of technology, and the way that we are trying to embed different ways of working within existing budgets to reduce our environmental impact, it is not possible to predict net costs for the council from now until 2040. However, we will continue to ensure that we get best value from our own and external investments. We are actively looking at investor-save models in areas such as renewables and storage, where it should be possible to deliver financial returns and savings that would result in a no net cost to the council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. I think we have a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, if I may, a supplementary. Whereas I certainly do understand the difficulties of making such a prediction, does the portfolio holder agree that such a projected figure, despite having to be an estimate, would be a useful yardstick against which to evaluate other priorities that the council will need to consider in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Were you hoping for a response to that one? Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, again, Councillor Trite, thank you for the question. Thank you for the interest in this particular project, because it is so important to this council. The difficulty I've got, I said right from word go, for members that would join me on the EAP, that this is more about getting money from government, but also looking at the new technologies. And if you look over the period of the last 2-3 years, technology has taken over dramatically and it's being enhanced further. Can I give you a figure? No. Will I look at trying to give you a figure? Of course I will, because you've asked the question.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan, for that response. Question 3 is submitted by Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Mike Parks, Ferndown North. My question is, before the dissolution of East Dorset District Council, a plan was created to improve Ferndown Town Centre. There is an urgent need for these plans to be revived and updated for the residents of Ferndown to be reassured that Dorset Council will deliver improvements that our town centre desperately needs. Dorset Council owns several prominent assets in Ferndown that allow for a brilliant opportunity to improve Penny's Walk and the surrounding area. At a time when several major retailers are exiting the town, a proactive approach from Dorset Council would be welcomed. Will the relevant Cabinet member give me the assurance that plans for Ferndown will be progressed and delivered, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor Parks. We will receive a response from Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Councillor Simon Gibson, portfolio holder for Economic Development and Levelling Up. Dorset's market towns and medium-sized towns are hugely important. They provide employment, entertainment and social services, both for those living in them and also the communities that surround them. Ferndown is no exception. The Council is conscious of the role that these towns play within the wider economy and will be looking to develop a specific strategy document in addition to the economic growth strategy that recognises this role and sets out how the Council will look to support the economic development of market towns and medium-sized towns. The document will recognise the recent good work undertaken by communities such as Bridport, where they have produced an investment plan, and Blandford, where a small public and private partnership is emerging to develop positive change and growth in their area. I have asked the relevant Overview Committee Chair to consider starting this work, and I am delighted that Councillor Jones has agreed. With specific regard to Ferndown, the plans developed by the former East Dorset District Council provided a positive vision for the future of Ferndown. It remains a good plan, and I agree with the local ward councillors that the plan ought to be revisited and refreshed. The Regeneration Service will work with officers from across the council to deliver improvements to Ferndown Town Centre, and I will work with ward councillors to ensure that the commitments made to Ferndown are progressed. Funding via Dorset Council's Shared Prosperity Fund allocation will be provided to help achieve this.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I believe we have a supplementary from Councillor Parks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you for this extremely encouraging response. However, could I indulge the portfolio holder for a commitment to timescales, please?
Thank you, Councillor Parks. I do understand the urgency that you and Councillor Lugg have to see some progress in this. I agree with you, and as a result, me and senior officers will meet with you both next week.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gibson. Question 4 is submitted by Councillor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following my recent question to this council regarding the stories in the press about the scrapping of EU-derived laws that provided much-needed protection to our natural environment, I was reassured that this council will be watching the situation carefully and making representations if required. There has been a stop on new house building in Dorset River catchment areas to prevent more nutrient runoff causing eutrophication, particularly in my ward of Upton and Litchett, which includes parts of the very vulnerable Poole Harbour. The recent announcement by the government that planning restrictions on nutrient runoff are to be scrapped in favour of a promise to increase investment in nutrient mitigation schemes is very worrying. This would seem to be letting the developers build new homes and having the public pick up the bill for mitigation. It would also seem that the extra pollution could well be an issue long before the answer of the problem is in place. The Environment Agency seems to be very quiet on this issue at present. Can I ask if there's any work is going on in Dorset? Given that this council has declared an environmental and ecological emergency, can I ask if any of the representation has been made to the government about this issue? We have assurances that funds are available from central government to put in place nutrient mitigation before houses are built, or will the taxpayer be expected to cover the cost? Can I just say also, Madam Chair, that I'm not particularly encouraged by the comments on this subject by our next Prime Minister either. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Starr. We will receive a response from Councillor Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Walsh, fortunate enough to represent the wonderful community of Gillingham and portfolio holder for planning. Thank you very much, Councillor Starr, for your question and the opportunity to update all members on this very pertinent issue. I feel that I should have a bell and a tricorn hat while I'm up here, because this is very important, something we should all be very much focused on. So, members, for your attention. The House of Lords on the 13th of September voted against the government's proposed amendments to the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill. That would have seen the end of nutrient neutrality rules for new development. This means that development in the affected catchment areas will still need to demonstrate nutrient neutrality in order to be permitted. We are still waiting for the final details of the bill to be confirmed for it to receive royal assent. So sadly, we do not have those details yet. But as you, I'm fighting to get them. 3 months ago, I was at number 10 Downing Street talking about nutrient neutrality. And I will push this as far as we can, because we have 3,500 houses in limbo that can't get planning permission until this is sorted out. And it's ridiculous. Because while we can't do it in the catchment areas, developers, obviously, are looking in other areas to develop speculatively. That doesn't help anybody. So this needs to be sorted out as soon as possible, and I am pushing, and so is the leader, to get this sorted as soon as possible. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Are you happy with that, Councillor Starr? Thank you. Agenda item 9 is the devolution deal for Dorset. I'm going to ask Councillor Gibson to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. At the meeting on the 25th of July, Cabinet considered a report titled A Devolution Deal for Dorset, set in the context of a further announcement by government about devolution deals being struck and against a commitment for all areas of England which wanted one to have a devolution deal by 2030. Cabinet considered it appropriate to consider these proposals for Dorset Council. The Council Plan is a document which is approved by Council. When the current Council Plan was approved, it was considered that a devolution deal, and at that time one with BCP Council, would have the potential to contribute towards the Council's economic priorities. With the passage of time, and particularly in consideration of the July Cabinet report, it is evident that the potential benefits of a devolution deal would go beyond the Council's economic priority alone. This report, therefore, sets out for the Council the potential wider policy implications of a devolution deal and seeks Council's endorsement of the need to widen the scope of the Council Plan accordingly. Further, and as members are aware, the government has set certain governance parameters around the creation of devolution deals. It is recognised that there is no appetite in the Council for a directly elected mayor. There are, however, other models, and this report therefore draws the attention of these to Council. Whilst there is no immediate implications or decisions required, the Council does need to be aware of the governance considerations. As members of the Council will know, the leader has been very active in pursuing discussions about devolution with other councils, including and beyond BCP Council. It is important that Dorset Council finds a partner or partners for a devolution deal, as due to our population size, we are not able to progress one alone. Whilst Cabinet has endorsed the work which the leader is doing, the support of Council for this work would add weight and would be further public demonstration of this Council's commitment towards a devolution deal. The broad aims of securing a devolution deal are clear. We wish to work with partners to attract funding and secure additional powers to improve our local area. The specifics of what a deal can achieve will come later, and the leader and I look forward to exploring the possibilities for Dorset and reporting back in due course. Therefore, I am pleased to propose the recommendations as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Thank you very much, Councillor Gibson. I understand Councillor Flower would like to second this proposal.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to second the proposal and reserve the right to come back at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary. Oh, sorry, we have Councillor Ireland already put his hand up. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor O'Leary. So Councillor Nick Ireland representing Crossways Ward, and since Councillor Kimber isn't here, I'll just point out that it's opposite Portland. So may I take this opportunity actually to congratulate Councillor Spencer Flower on his nomination. Liberal Democrat Group will be supporting the recommendation in this paper, but I'd just like to make a few comments. And there is a question at the end, just in case you're worrying that I haven't won. And I'm not trying to criticise anybody, but I'll just read out what I've written. I found the report was permeated with a miasma of vagueness, with numerous adjectives and verbs such as could, potential, perhaps, not the fault of the author, but indicative of the current situation around devolution in England. And even the recommendation is similar. It asks that the Council, and I quote, gives its support for the work of the leader that he has progressed, without any specifics as to what that has entailed beyond speaking to some unidentified leaders of unidentified councils other than BCP. Given that it's probably impractical to join with other authorities unless they are direct neighbours, the other ones on our borders, unless you don't, just in case you don't know your geography, they're obviously BCP, Wiltshire, Somerset, and then you've got Hampshire County Council with New Forest District Council on one side, and then Devon and East Devon Dorset District Council on the other. Worryingly, the paper goes on to mention, and I quote again, that given the more recent policy announcements by government, it is evident that deals based on large geographical footprints may be considered more favourably. This to me means we could end up linked in a devolution deal with other authorities, such as Swindon, Bath and North East Somerset, North Somerset, with Somerset and Wiltshire providing a link. This would require a considerable additional level of bureaucracy. The North East Combined Authority, for example, which is basically south of Newcastle, has a leadership board, its own audit and governance. It has a joint transport committee, a joint transport audit committee, and several other joint transport subcommittees. And we could have similar or even more. And I can imagine the bun fights at our devolved committees about spending money in Wimborne, or maybe in Wellington, or in Warminster, or maybe even Weston-super-Mare. And incidentally, the North East Combined Authority is the only one in about 10 or so currently devolved authorities which actually doesn't have a MER, an option where you aren't actually going to proceed and follow. And the number of this is that none of this guarantees substantial amounts of money. The numbers in the report are small in the scheme of things, and the Whitehall imposed devolution model doesn't get rid of competitive bidding. A number is mentioned for Cornwall in the report, but the devolution that was there isn't what's on the table now. In fact, Cornwall has actually rejected a level 3 deal and is looking at level 2. What we really need, and I hope the colleagues in the Chamber agree with me, is the ability to manage a single pot of funding with maximum flexibility on a multi-year basis, without intervention from government. This could be provided now, without the need for deals for other councils. I'm talking about proper funding, which recognises that local authorities, that's us, are best placed to know and meet the needs of their residents. Whilst I see no reason not to support the recommendation, I'm not convinced that a devolution deal under the current rules will do much to slow the progress towards the financial purposes that all local authorities can see in the future. As has been mentioned, we're pretty well off at the moment, but it is going to happen unless something changes. So my question at the end to the leader is, could he name all the local authorities he's actually talking to? Thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. Goodness gracious me, I actually think I agree with Councillor Ireland on a lot of the points he raised. I am concerned around some of the vagueness on this. Although I wasn't on a local authority before this, I've always was sceptical of the LGR. If I had my way, I'd go back to rural districts, let alone districts and boroughs. The massive change in this country in the last 20 or 30 years has been a dramatic move away from power being held in the hands of elected officials and handed over to unelected, unaccountable quangos. Now, no one is happier to see the end of the Bournemouth and Poole-centric LEP more than I am. But can the leader give me assurances, and the portfolio holder, that the model, if an elected mayor is ruled out, that the model that will be followed will be member-led and be directly led by those that are accountable, not handed over to a board of appointees and folks that are just dragged in from various quangos and swathes of the private sector or out of the House of Lords. So can I have that assurance that whatever model is taken forward, that democracy and direct democracy and accountability is at the heart of it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Next we have Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think obviously with the situation we have in local government funding these days, these sorts of discussions have to take place. We're looking at a bigger model these days. We can't stand it alone. And the infrastructure that would need to be brought into this county to drive our economy and for the betterment of our residents, that sort of money and that sort of infrastructure we're not going to be able to do on our own. So we are going to have to reach out with other authorities and possibly go to government to get these types of deals. However, I have got a concern around future sovereignties. Governments have a habit of changing their mind and moving the goalposts. So I think in the discussions that would take place, we would need an assurance that those sovereignties can be moved. I understand that that would be significant legal change that would be needed in Westminster to bring that about. However, I do believe that it is something that should be raised and the question should be made and posed and get an assurance on that. I'd also like to make a couple of points where I could do some clarification. I understand on a level 1 that there isn't the ability to take on such things as NHS provision. However, in 1.13 at page 45, the wording, and we talk about the health, I'd just like a clarification that we wouldn't be taking on any NHS responsibilities going forward around that. Level 1 doesn't allow that for the moment, but I said previously, governments have a habit of changing their minds and moving goalposts. And the last one is on page 45 at 1.18. I really didn't understand this paragraph, I'm afraid. I'm perfectly happy to admit it. But it was, if an elected mayor is not the preferred route, Dorset, and a suitable partner or partners might consider an innovating front-runner model which builds on the local government reorganisation process and the unitary status of authorities who might partner with Dorset in a devolution deal. I'm not sure I understand the front-runner part. If that could be explained, and I'd be very appreciative, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Claire Sutton, Rodwell and Wyke in Weymouth. I find myself in the unusual position of agreeing with what much of my colleague Councillor O'Leary says, which is fantastic. I do find some of the report really quite self-evident. I mean, obviously, we all agree we want and need additional resources in Dorset to support our biggest priorities, affordable housing, public transport, rural buses, etc. And we all agree that BCP would be the most natural partner for that work. But in terms of how this could work and how it actually potentially reduces our autonomy, I think Councillor O'Leary and Councillor Ireland have made some extremely valid points. So I won't labour that point any further. However, I have to say, I find this paper, it almost feels a little bit disingenuous at the moment, as if it's, to fill a sparse agenda, given that the Cabinet's already pursuing this. I don't want to be I don't mean to be party political, but obviously we're in a context where we've got very much an end-of-term vibe with our current government and a likelihood of a new government quite soon. So in that context, and where the goalpost might change, you know, hugely, therefore I really think we do have to be careful how much resource and energy we put into this, given where we are at this moment in time on a national basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Robin Legg.
Thank you. Robin Legg, Sherborne Rural. Can I just reinforce Shane's point about paragraph 118? Could you sketch out for us exactly what you envisage would be an innovative front-runner model? Because that's a meaningless phrase as far as I'm concerned. I've got no conception of what that might be. And if we're going to end up partnering with other authorities, whether it's BCP, who, in my lengthy experience, certainly on the county council, they were only too glad to get away from Dorchester. It is one of, are we going to partner with Somerset and with Wiltshire and other authorities within their remit? And how is that likely to affect both the powers that we've got already, because those powers would then be filtered away to perhaps an elected mayor or some other kind of innovative chamber where only a select few actually sit and make high-level decisions? Or are we going to be afflicted by others' financial irregularities? We pride ourselves on being an organisation which is well-run, financially well-managed, and in a good state to try and resist the storms that are besetting local governments at the moment. But if we're going to start partnering with organisations which are less financially sound and might be staring into the abyss of a Section 114 notice, how is that going to affect us if we're partnering them?
Thank you, Councillor Legg. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Robin Cook, Stour and Allen Vale Ward. I very much support the recommendation in front of us. Listen to some of the comments around here, and obviously with this, the devil's in the detail. We all know that. We've heard tonight how successful council has been compared to many others, and an award that our leader has got, and well deserved. And part of that is working across the chamber and working together. Now, this is an enlarged version of that, if you like, working with neighbours to try and produce better results for our residents. We have to find ways of doing it. If this is one way that's been offered to us by central government, yes, I've heard what's said, it could be tweaked, etc. But I'm confident that the way that this administration has worked so far and is likely to work in the future, given that there are some changes possibly coming next year, but we'll wait and see. And I would be very, very disappointed if the secret is in the wording, it's levelling up. And I would expect to see that if we get to a conclusion, not levelling down. That's the key. So I'm very much in favour, and I'm confident that the team we've got here, Chairman, negotiating this, will bring it back to the chamber, and we'll be probably very happy with the result, but be able to debate the devil in the detail. So very much support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Excuse me. I'm now going to ask Councillor Flower to respond to all your concerns. Thank you.
Well, that's a big ask, Chairman. Thank you very much for that. I think one thing that's been very clear, and thank you very much for your contributions, is that everybody in this chamber, including me as well, need far more information as we build on this. What I'm asking you to do this evening is to allow me to continue, and Nick commented earlier, and thank you for that, continue with those conversations with other councils. Whatever we do, there'll be full briefings, because a lot of stuff that's been said in here isn't quite as it is, but we've been here a long time tonight if we tried to go through in any detail. I think we need proper member briefings so that when you end up making a decision, and the only decision you're making tonight is to endorse me to continue to have my conversations, we wouldn't be making any decisions who you're all au fait with what all this means. Shane picked up on the issue about sovereignty. This does not affect the individual council's sovereignty. It doesn't, in a simple fact. And the front runner comment relates to level 2, because up until quite recently, the government had pushed for they wanted the level 3 mayor type combined authority approach. And that tended to be a bit of a barrier to progress around devolution deals, because a lot of areas simply didn't want them. I certainly don't. I don't agree with the model. I think it takes too much of the democracy away from the decision making, and I don't favour it. And at the LGA conference, Michael Gove got up, and part of his speech he said, and by the way, I acknowledge, in fact the government now acknowledges that the mayoral model doesn't work everywhere. So if you want to come forward with a level 2, that's fine by us. So, and we're not the only ones. I know that Essex County Council are looking at a level 2 deal with their district's councils over there. But from the point of view of the front runner, for us, in our area, we would be a front runner in a level 2 model. And to answer Nick's question about who they are, I have to respect the views of the leaders who I've spoken to. I've spoken to them individually, and I've spoken to them together. And they've got to go away and get the same sort of mandate that I'm seeking this evening, so that we can all get back in the room with the chief execs, start building on stuff, keep you all informed, plenty of webinars and so on, so you're all very, very clear about what the devolution deal is all about. And it was interesting that on Monday morning I did a Radio Solent broadcast, and I was interviewed, and it was quite clear to me there's a lot of work we need to do to make people very aware, because otherwise we're going to make all the wrong assumptions. What does devolution mean? It certainly doesn't mean what it means in Scotland or Wales and so on. It's quite a different animal here. So I hope you will support giving me that opportunity to go out, build on what we've done already, and bring it back. And I promise you one thing, you will all be fully informed, along with Simon, fully informed about how we're going about this, because I'm after getting the best outcomes for the people of Dorset. This is an opportunity for us to do just that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. We'll have just a quick comment from Simon. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's just to come back in particular to the points raised by Councillor Sutton. I do appreciate the comments that are made about the vagueness. Not particularly keen on the word disingenuous, but I understand the sentiment that you're saying. What we're trying to do here is not put ourselves in a position where, as we progress with our negotiations, we find that we've set publicly out intentions that simply make a deal not possible. We need to go into the negotiations open-mindedly. And as we say, this is the main deal in town to attract high-level funding that is set by the government. You made a good point about what happens if the government changes and the philosophies around devolution were to change. My own personal view is I think devolution in England is relatively settled across the major political parties. I think it's a good thing. I know that that's also the officers' opinions. But as a responsible leadership of this council, we have to take the opportunities that exist today. And to not do so puts us and our taxpayers at risk. We cannot shoulder the entire burdens of the costs of running services in this county. Responsible leadership gets stuck in now. And while I appreciate that it is a little bit vague, I really hope that we can vote for it tonight. And when we come back with a lot more detail, you'll be hugely encouraged with what we can come back with.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Well, the recommendation has been proposed and seconded, and I'm now going to put it to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. The vote is now open. Yep. Thank you. Okay. The results are 57 in favour, 6 against and no abstentions. The recommendation is carried.
Thank you very much, Susan. So we are at agenda item 10, And I'll ask Councillor Biggs to introduce the report, please.
Councillor Richard Biggs, Poundbury, Dorchester Ward. Hopefully this is not controversial and it's quite clear, I think, in reports. We have procedures whereby if we want co-opted members to audit and governance, which is best practice, according to SIPFA and the LGA, that the final process under our constitution, we need approval from your good selves. They have gone through the two successful candidates, Mr. Roach and Mr. Ong, through a rigorous selection process and interview. And we believe that there will be an excellent two candidates. They came along to view our last audit and governance, but I hope you're able to endorse them, please. Thank you. And I would just like to bring up some other item connected with audit and governance, if you'll indulge me afterwards, please.
So I understand Councillor Cocking is to second the recommendation.
Yes, Chair. Councillor Susan Cocking, Portland Ward, as Vice Chair of Audit and Governance. We have two very extremely knowledgeable co-opted members, and as Councillor Biggs said, they did go through a very rigorous process. They've attended the last Audit and Governance meeting, and they would be excellent members for the committee and make a great contribution for the council as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cocking. Do we have any comments or queries from any members, please? No. No, we have no other comments. So if you're happy, Councillor Biggs, I shall put this to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. The vote is now open. Councillor Alford, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. The vote is now closed. And the results of the vote are 59 in favour, 1 against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Susan. Excuse me, Councillor Biggs, did you wish to say something further?
Yes, it's just on another matter which audit and governance are dealing with. It didn't come up in the chairman's, the leader's announcements. Some members may be wondering what is happening with the review on meeting times. There have been 2 meetings of the Task and Finish group, and of course you recently undertook a survey of the findings of those. I have to say that the results are sort of slightly inconclusive, so we're in a bit of a muddle as to how to proceed. So we had an option really of bringing it to full council and having perhaps a rather difficult, touchy debate about it, or going back. I decided to have one more online meeting to see if we can come to a conclusion when it will come back again to full council. But it's not easy trying to satisfy everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Biggs. I can see that it's quite a tricky one to organise. Being part of the Task and Finish group myself, everybody's got an opinion, of course. And I'm sure that in the fullness of time we'll receive that recommendation. Thank you. So, agenda item 11 is the Harbours Co-optee, and I'll ask Councillor Roberts to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Mark Roberts, Chesil Bank, at the heart of the Jurassic Coast and one of the most desirable places to live. Thank you for the opportunity for this recommendation. As you're probably aware, the harbours are at the centre of their communities, and in particular Weymouth now is leading because of its involvement with the levelling up and that all-important regeneration of Weymouth. It's a vital time as we work with our colleagues in assets to determine this exciting future which heavily involves harbour land. It's absolutely important that we have wise counsel to guide us in this, and our cross-party membership of 6 elected members is enhanced by having outside members with various skills. We had a very strong field to choose from. My vice chairman, Rob Hughes, was on the panel with me, and unanimously we decided to award Mark Saxby with this position, a long experience of leisure sailing, local resident from Dorset with a lifetime experience in education. We felt he brought a very good balance of experience and skills to the committee. So I would like to recommend his approval for this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. And we'll ask Councillor Hughes to second the proposal. Thank you.
Good evening, members. Councillor Rob Hughes, ward member for the Isle and Royal Manor of Portland. Dorset's only Royal Manor. I wholeheartedly second this appointment and ask you to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hughes. Councillor O'Leary.
Chairman, a lot of talk around accountability and democracy this evening. I must vote against this. I have every independent appointment to the Harbours Committee. I don't feel it is proper to have independent, non-elected, in terms of by the electorate, people sitting on committees and receiving an allowance. We don't have developers on planning boards. We don't have other people on with expertise on other committees. I think it's time that we looked at scrapping this appointment. We scrapped aldermen in terms of unelected councillors having votes on the council in 1973, but yet we still have unelected people on the Harbours Advisory Committee, and I think it's time we looked at that. And I ask every year, and Christmas is coming up, so I ask the portfolio holder, please, once again, look at this issue and let's ensure that we have a fully democratic committee. Nothing against the individual. I must make that point to every individual that comes onto the Harbours Committee. I bear them no ill will, but on principle, I must vote against this, as I always do.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Do we have any more comments? Okay, in which case I'm going to put this to the vote, please.
The vote is now open. Councillor Azard, would you mind just voting for us again, please? 35 is... and Councillor Stella Jones, would you mind just voting for us again? Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 58 in favour, 2 against and 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. That recommendation is carried. So agenda item 12 is a dispensation, and Councillor Spencer Flower will introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, this evening I'm asking for a dispensation for Councillor Peter Wolfe. Peter's been suffering from ill health for a little while now and been unable to attend council like he did so diligently before his illness caused him to stay away from the council. And I hope colleagues around the chamber tonight will support giving Peter a dispensation, basically 6 months, but it takes it through to the 2nd of May next year. I did have an email from Peter, and I did actually see him a few weeks ago. Some of us went and had, Tony, myself and Ray and his wife went down and had lunch with him, and he was in good spirits. He's now having his treatment, and obviously that's a challenge. But I did get an email from him, came flooding in on the 5th of October, and he's good spirits. The only problem is he said he can't drink alcohol, which is a bit of a downside for him, but otherwise he's in good spirits. He's going through a difficult time, and I hope you'll all support his dispensation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's difficult when one of our own needs to apply for dispensation, and it's absolutely right that we should give them our full and unconditional support, as members of this chamber did for Councillor Janet Dover during a recent illness as well. So I absolutely second Councillor Wolf's dispensation. And if I may, through you, Chairman, send the Liberal Democrats' best wishes and hopes for a rapid and full recovery to Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that's very much appreciated, I'm sure. I don't believe we have any comments. I'm going to go straight to the vote on this. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Thank you, everyone. The vote is now closed. And the results of the vote are 62 in favour. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for that result. Agenda item 13 is urgent items, and there are no urgent items. Agenda item 14 is exempt business, and we do not have any. So at 8:41, I'm going to close this meeting. 7:41, sorry. 7:41. I'm going to close this meeting. Safe journey home.